Transition, the process of change from one condition to another.
We are now at a new crossroad where change is evident once again.
What does not serve us must transform us anew.
Returning to our original state of oneness and true nature of that which created who we truly are.
Confusion was the way of the past. Enlightenment is the way of the now and future, shedding away the layers of deceit.
We now bring you the transformation of the two who started as one. Our fearless planet never stands still.
Earth has been in a process of transition, and we are not exempt from this remarkable, ongoing reality. Well, hello, and welcome to Transition Radio Show's Real Talk with the Cummings. My name's Mark Angelo.
And my name is Lynna, and we wanted to say, hey, you guys, you're going to have a great show today. We have an awesome guest all the way from the East Coast.
Yes, all the way from the East Coast. And as you know, we love to share stories from testimonies from detransitioners to ex-gays and just anyone that has a story to tell. We will also be sharing in the future some more transgender individuals and their story, how their life progresses with their transition and so forth and so on. It's so important to share the lives of people and have everyone feel like they have a safe place in the world. But today we have Anna, and Anna began her journey as a street art enthusiast and an urban explorer in 2011. She would spend most of her days wandering around the city, finding various interesting places, and express herself through self-portraits.
In 2012, Anna studied art and design at Community College of Philadelphia, learning different skills that will later become important tools in her journey to develop her art and her creative style. Anna has constantly been on a path of self-improvement, both as an artist and a human, always seeking the next to create something meaningful.
By the summer of 2018, Anna had developed a clear vision to create art that featured Bible scriptures and music verses on posters and merchant. This came as a way to inspire people and spread messages of faith, hope, and love in the world.
She lived as a transgender man for over a decade, but during the pandemic of 2020, God spoke to her and touched her heart. This revelation was the start of her detransition journey.
And now welcome to the show, Anna.
Hey,
How
hi.
you doing? So
Good.
glad to finally meet you and to have you on our show, to have you share the story of your life. What has moved you? What has led you to take different avenues and detours? And that's a fascinating thing to me.
It really is. It's always amazing to hear everybody's individual journey and how things kind of got orchestrated in a certain way and stuff. And it's really cool just to hear what people have been up to.
So let's start from the beginning, which is, it's where I believe that it all begins, in the beginning, right? So
Right.
Tell us, Anna, what kind of childhood did you have?
Well, I grew up in a Catholic home with my older brother and my sister, with my mom and dad. And growing up, life was pretty much just simple. We had, my dad would take us to go apple picking. He taught us how to ride our bikes. So life was, at that time, was pretty normal to me. Um, and the only time we went to church was probably on Christmas and like Easter. So growing up, my family didn't really had I guess like just a relationship with the Lord. Um, and yeah, that was pretty much like my childhood growing up.
So was there any particular periods in your childhood that stand out to you that may have affected your decisions later on as an adult?
Would you say the detransitioning part, or just like
just anything from the love of art to having the need to express differently than what typically people would expect a female to express, and things of that nature.
Um, I would say as when I was little, I struggled with a lot of anxiety, like social anxiety. Um, and that played affected majority of just my life, even my adulthood. Um, and yeah, like that social anxiety, like it crippled me. Like I was afraid to even go to school. I started cutting school at the age, uh, when I was in seventh grade, and I dropped out of high school. And during that time, I was just working in factory jobs for about like 4 years, didn't know what to do. Just questioning my life at that time, especially being a teenager. And at that time, even, when you're brought up in an Asian home, we don't know the term social anxiety. We don't discuss our feelings. We don't discuss, like what we're going through. So as a kid, pretty much just went through, yeah, just trying to figure out everything on my own and pretty much just isolating myself at that time. And I've never really felt like I was a boy um, until I started to have this discomfort of just hanging out with guys. I didn't know why. Um, and I guess at around that time, being a teenager, I would just started to question myself and just tell myself like, oh, maybe you don't feel comfortable around them because maybe you're supposed to be one. And I remember watching like the Murray Show. Um, and because there was one episode called, I believe, uh, "Can You Guess If This Is a Trans Woman?" Have you seen that episode before?
I
Not
think,
really.
Mm.
yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
have.
you have, yeah. So that was,
Yeah, back in the day. Yeah.
yeah. So that was one of the episode that I came across, and I started to just question what that meant. And I remember, like, as a kid, there was just a picture of me wearing like a white Power Ranger costume, and I was like, oh, maybe this is why I feel this way. Just looking at the picture, like, why did I, dress in a white Power Ranger suit, you know? And I guess then I started to explore, like Google the term transgender. And then that's how pretty much my transition started. Um,
So, like, how was your um, like in an Asian household? What are the family dynamics? What are your expectations as a female or for a male?
mm,
What are those? Are there differences like in how you're raised? Because I remember I had a friend. He was Korean, and his parents were very very strict with him, and he had some kind of rules to really go by that you
yeah,
just didn't break.
yeah. I would say like education was really important in my household. Like my mom wanted us to go to school and, like be a doctor or a lawyer to just make money. I think money was more important. Um, yeah,
And that's probably because their parents did the same thing. It's like we continue to follow the same path from generation to generation, and sometimes
right,
not even knowing why we do what we do. It's just because that's how my mom did it or that's how my dad did it. And, they probably wanted the best for their children, which most parents
right,
do. So they equate fame, fortune, money, and all that stuff with the best instead of other things that are much more important, in my opinion, than prosperity with money and all that jazz.
yeah,
But it's part of generational type of thing.
And I also think that it's important, like even at that time, that each individual has that male and female type perspective within them. You know, it's like that type of energy, or I don't know. How would you
Well, we all
describe it?
have in our makings, we have a male and a female essence. I mean, that's what creates the whole. In like Eastern belief, there's a yin and the yang, and we believe, or mostly I believe, that we are here to learn how to balance those energies. But in a household, like, I'm sure that your parents wanted you to be a certain way, like dressed a
Right.
certain way, act a certain way, and you were probably shamed for being different. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, growing up, I was pretty much like a girly girl. So
Mm-hmm.
when I came out to my mom, like it just, it was really hard for her. And I didn't know myself. I just thought, oh, well, maybe, um, maybe I am trans because of this, the show that I've seen, the Murray Show. But majority, even growing up, I was always a girly girl. And it wasn't until I guess I was depressed and then, just questioning myself. It was then that I thought that, oh, if I, just become this other person, I'll just, yeah, fix whatever issues that I was dealing with. Like I was also molested when I believe I was 7, which I think that also affected me. Um, Even my relationship with my dad and my brother growing up, we didn't really have a close relationship. Um, yeah. So,
So that's a picture of you that you sent me. How old were you
yes,
then?
I believe
How
I was 16.
16.
Okay.
Yeah, 16.
And you transitioned when?
I believe I would say I transitioned when I was 21.
21.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So then it was a massive shock to your parents when you decided that you were going to transition, because there was no signs of you,
Yeah.
you know, having the typical narrative, which is being born in the wrong body and not doing the typical things that um, young girls would do. But you did do the typical things that young girls would do. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yes. And I also didn't come out as, like a lesbian or like bisexual. I just, one day decided like, Mom, I'm trans.
Wow.
Like I skipped the whole process. The other
Right. You just went.
right.
But you know, like you said earlier, that encounter when you were 7
Hmm.
had developed a kind of scar on you that
Yeah.
kind of did you question your femaleness at that point, or did you what did it cause in you?
Or was it a fear
Yeah,
that,
or was it a
because
fear?
I know, like with myself, I was also sexually molested from the age of 8 to 12. And I think we create this armor, like no
Right.
one's ever going to hurt me again.
Right.
And transition brings us that armor.
Armor,
It's like
literally.
most trans guys, they focus on going to the gym, getting big. So, like, hey, no one's going to mess with me, man.
Right.
You ain't
Right.
going to touch me ever again. And I think that's almost like a defense mechanism that we use.
Yeah.
Would you say that that was your, like, the big, maybe that was like the seed that was planted?
I would say the first seed that was planted was probably um there was a moment where my mother and father was arguing, and I was the youngest one. So my mother, every time they would argue, my mother would just hold me as a shield, and just seeing my father yell at my mom, that's that just really like put a lot of fear in me, and I didn't know. Um, I just thought my dad was a bad man for trying to hurt my mom, and I think that was like the first uh yeah, of just being traumatized by what my dad did to my mom and just trying to understand and just trying to protect my mom. And I think just even growing up, not having a relationship with my brother, and then just that incident, the child molestation, um, you know, yeah, just trying to understand it all, you know.
And that definitely makes it makes an impact. Because
Yeah.
I had a very violent alcoholic father who used to beat up on my mom all the time, and I always felt like I had to be her protector as well. So I could totally relate with your feelings, and I think a lot of FTM, female to male, they may share the same story. They sexual molestation, violent household, not fitting in for whatever reason, and this becomes our coping mechanism.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's bad, good, or indifferent, but it is a coping mechanism. Everyone has a coping mechanism that they use to navigate life. I wish that there were more self-reflection points in our life where before we do this, that
yeah,
we make sure that it's the right thing. Because I don't believe that everyone should transition. It's not for the
yeah,
faint of heart.
yeah,
It definitely isn't. And it doesn't seem to solve the problems that most people believe it will.
yeah, most definitely.
And it also didn't really like the, your sexuality had nothing to do with it either, which is interesting. That's a different, it's
Yeah.
a different thing altogether.
Yeah.
Because we're looking at like a real like trauma that caused you to go in that direction. And there's a lot of FTMs that they choose to transition because they feel like they can be a man to a woman,
Mhm.
whereas,
Mm.
you know what I mean?
Right.
So,
So how did you navigate the fact that you were never attracted to females, but you felt that you were should be have or should have been a male? I mean, how did you start aligning all these cards in your mind? Or
So, I don't know why I can't really um yet pin a point where I remember why I did what I did, but I remember during just when I was 14 and 15, I started to just make a fake profile. I was catfishing people, um, and I just stole like my brother's picture and used his picture. I wasn't sure. I'm not sure if I did it to, get back at him or to hurt somebody else. But I started to catfish for about like 3 years, and I think just pretending to be somebody else, I started to develop like feelings for, same sex, um, that I didn't before. And I think just, when you're going through anxiety, social anxiety, not having any friends, and just going through a lot that, that people don't understand, and having like this false world that you created, like as you feel like you belong just in a community, and you built this world where, like even though it's false, like it makes you feel good, because all the people that I was talking to, uh, they would just compliment me, and they would just talk to me, and it was easier for me. And I think, um, and then I would say I did it for about 3 years, and then I stopped. Then I think growing up started, throughout the years. That's when I came across the Murray show later on, and I started to just like connect the dots. Like, oh, maybe I should. Like that was me. That's why I started to catfish. Um, so I'm not sure if
like,
that.
what did like puberty do when it hit for you? How did it make you feel? Did it do anything at all?
Um, I don't think it did anything to me. It was pretty much normal. Yeah, it's pretty much normal.
so we say it would be safe to say that it was more like watching the Maury show, finding, I hear a lot of that people, there was like power of suggestion.
Right.
They saw
Yeah,
something, you couldn't quite put your finger on it, but it goes, hey, yeah, that's me.
yeah,
That, you kind of could relate. You were a loner, which is a
yeah,
very high percentage of trans individuals. They're very introverted, and don't make friends easy. Socialization is not easy, a lot of anxiety. So creating another persona really
Yeah.
helps with that anxiety. Really, it's like it's
Right.
no longer you being judged because there's
Right.
a new character being created. And I don't want to call that a pathology. I just think that it's something that every species does to survive. It's like a survival skill,
Mm.
that we do. And I think psychology has really tried to pathologize this whole transitioning bit, but I think it's pretty creative, and you are a creative individual. You love taking pictures. It's like
Thank you.
you're taking a canvas and you're just
Yeah.
like,
Making it,
making what you feel that you should
making
be,
art.
making art. We're
Yeah.
art in the making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, the whole creativeness of it.
Um, of just like my transition, or
Yeah.
um, I know that just thinking about my art journey, even growing up, I've never been kind of artsy.
Okay.
And I wasn't until I started to transition that being still even in the beginning of my transition, I was pretty much alone. Like I've tried to go to like LGBT support groups and trans support groups, but it just never really worked out for me. And during that season, like I said, I was, alone, and I was living on my own at that time as well. So I didn't want to stay home. I didn't want to trap myself in the house. So I forced myself to just go outside. And when I would just, explore the city and just walk through these streets alone, I would just see like street art messages on the street that would say, like smile, or, something encouraging that would just like um, help me just move forward. And I think in that season, God started to just plant a little seed in me, to just, yeah, just take picture. I started to just fall in love with like street art, and eventually I invested in the camera, and then I started taking pictures of people. So that's how like my whole art journey started.
So did it like with your transition, did you look at it as being another journey into like a type of artistic thing for yourself, that you were like creating something, that you were the actual canvas or you were the actual photo that was being taken? Or was it more like, you know, I've tried living this other way and it doesn't bring me happiness. I want to be happy, so I'm going to do something drastic to change it. What what inspired you to finally make that move to attempt to transition and then to
Mm.
be successful at it?
Um, I think for me, um, I think during that time uh, of just feeling so depressed, and not feeling like there was a way out, not feeling like I feel comfortable in my body, and it felt like, transitioning was like the only way at that time. And just even, coming across like Mark's video, I believe like Mark was also the first person that I've saw, that I follow in your journey, that really inspired me to, you know, transition. Um,
So now
so
I feel guilty. Yeah,
don't feel guilty, because I don't really regret my transition. I feel like has taught me a lot, and I wouldn't be where I am, even meet the people that I meet without, transitioning this journey. So
And it is definitely a journey. I mean, I've gone back and forth with my own journey, and I felt moments of shame and guilt, and
yeah,
I believe it's all based on religiosity. Okay, because
yeah,
from the moment that I was little, I was always very different, and I was
yeah,
very masculine, and I was I grew up Jehovah Witness, and that was just a can of worms. But I think that it's, as much as it's been torn down by religious beliefs, I think that this is a way of us as spirit beings being able to express, because we all have a male and a female, or a male and female energy source, not just like what people see typically of a woman or a man, but
right,
we're made up of energy. And I think that there comes a time where we dance and we try to balance these energies out, and people do it in different ways. Right now, the world we're living in, transition has become a thing. And it's a
yes,
way of,
yeah,
it's almost like a rite of passage that many of us do. And I don't regret it either. I've had moments where I've said that I have, but thinking back, I do it all over again, because like you said, it has provided you a look within you that you might not have ever seen had you not done this.
yeah,
And it tapped into your creative side. You started taking pictures, and let me go into the actual website. I mean, you are very talented, I
thank you.
believe. Let me go here and open up your website. Okay, so let's go on the gallery here. Portraits. Yeah,
Yeah, we
so
gotta collaborate one day.
oh, definitely. My thing is music. I've been writing since I was 10 years old. I play the guitar. I
Okay,
love music.
I love
As it's
music
showing.
too. So
Yeah. And I love
Yeah,
to express in poetry, or just writing songs, and just, I mean, you really capture the essence.
yeah, it's very
thank you,
organic.
Yeah,
thank you.
extremely. And prior to you transitioning, you didn't have this skill.
Yeah, I
You didn't.
didn't. I
Yeah.
didn't. Yeah,
I mean, I think it's like we tap into a part of ourselves that, God, it's like a muse, that just brings out certain things that we normally wouldn't encounter had we not done this. And like I said before, it's not for everybody, because definitely this transitioning is not for everybody.
yeah,
It's like buyer beware. It works for some people and doesn't work for other people. And you do kids and family, university
yes,
events, and things of that nature, correct? Just share
pretty
some more
much
here.
a little bit of everything.
A
Thank
little
you.
bit of everything. Is there anyone in your family that has that kind of gift with the photography,
Uh,
or?
I would say growing up, like my dad, took a lot of pictures of us growing up.
Mhm.
So maybe I got it from him.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's excellent.
Yeah, you have a real eye for like framing
thank
and
you.
just telling a story. Yeah, I used to be in broadcast television and worked as a camera operator for like, I don't know, like 25 years before I transitioned.
Okay,
Then
wow.
after that, I got hurt and I wasn't able to do anymore. But it's really such a creative outlet, to be able to have a camera and to tell a story like that. And you do a really good job of it.
Thank
So
you.
take us back to that moment that you transitioned, because you lived as a trans guy for 10 years, right? That's
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
So you transition. You're, I'm sure, on the top of the world, because that initial, what I like to call the honeymoon stage that we all go through, we're like invincible. It's like I'm the man, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
How was that for you in the beginning? What were your thoughts, and how did life start to change for you?
I would say in the beginning, like even coming out to my family and well, coming out to my family for the first time, was really hard. My mom didn't really, nobody in my family, especially, back then, the term trans wasn't really known. So it
Right.
was really hard for all of my family. But my dad was really accepting. He was like, you know, I still love you. But I would say it took my family roughly around like 2 years to just come around and to finally accept and to call me back. My name before was Alex. So it took them about 2 years to call me by Alex. Um, and yeah, just even like, you know, going through, you know, dealing and struggling with social anxiety, it was really hard for me to meet people. Like I said before, like I tried going to, you know, support groups, in LGBT community groups, but I never really felt like I belonged for some reason. And it wasn't until like I dropped out of high school and I had enrolled myself in this program called Youth Build, and it was a 1 year program to earn my high school diploma. And I went there, um, and I met my teacher's mother, who was an RN at that time. And after she was there to pretty much share her journey as a nurse, and after class was over, at that time, something in me, I don't, um, told me to ask her if she went to church. So, and it was really hard for me. I didn't know why, but I felt like now I know it was the Holy Spirit. But you know, dealing with social anxiety, I didn't know why I said that at the time. So I asked her if she goes to church, and she told me like she goes to this church in Camden, which is in New Jersey. And she asked if, you know, if I would like to come, and that she was gonna pick me up that following Sunday. And so, you know, following Sunday came up, and she picked me up, and I went to church, a Christian church, for the first time. And I didn't know what to expect because I was probably like the only Asian person there. I was scared out of my mind, and that was the first time like I ever felt comfortable just in a space with a lot of people. And since then, like I've from that moment on, I just continuing to go to church. I never, and I tried going to, you know, like um, LGBT groups again, but it just never really connected with me. Um, and just, yeah, just going to that church for the first time and just accepting the Lord. And while also, you know, I would say like the first 2 years of my transitioning was really difficult. Just trying to get used to even being, you know, just to be around people and talk to people. So it wasn't like, you know, I didn't feel like I was on top of the world yet. Um, so yeah.
So, how long did it take you to become comfortable in your skin?
Oh my God. I would say 2018. And it wasn't until so I was in a relationship for about 4 years. I believe it was 2014 to 2018. And when we broke up, um, I was just heartbroken. And during that time, uh, I leaned towards art for healing. Like I started to make postcards and posters. And during that season, God, and also going back to church, because when I was in that relationship, I, you know, my relationship with God stopped. So when our relationship ended, I started going back to church, um, started just creating because it was like an outlet for me. And in that season, God told me to just go outside in the streets and just lay my arts on the ground. And I was so terrified because, you know, like, you know, struggling, still, I was struggling with social anxiety, you know, even in my adulthood. Um, and it was in that season, and I was doing that for maybe about like 3 months. So I would just go outside every single day and just lay my art on the ground, and random people would just come up and talk to me, and I didn't know what to say half the time, but it was just like I had to felt uncomfortable. Um, and yeah, and just, I think after just doing that for about a couple months, I started to slowly just open up and feel comfortable, uh, just, conversing with people, even feeling comfortable with myself, even finding my voice in art, and sharing that. So yeah, I would say 2018, which is not too
And
long ago.
yeah. So you ended up going to church like back in 2012, or is that when
Yes.
you first?
So
Okay.
2012 was when I met my teacher's mom, and I went to that church in Camden for about a year, and then I started getting into a relationship for about 4 years. So I stopped going to that church, and it wasn't until 2018 that I started to go to church again.
Interesting. So you weren't really raised in a godly type home. I mean,
No,
it wasn't, no. And so it was that the RN that kind of like introduced
yeah,
you into Christianity.
yeah,
And as far as like your social anxiety, you didn't feel that social anxiety in the church or on church people.
yeah. I
Did I?
didn't.
And
I
why do
felt
you
like,
think?
oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
think it's because I just felt more comfortable with older people.
Okay.
And just because I feel like I'm always constantly thinking about like different perspective and not connecting with, kids my age at that time. Uh, so I just felt like just being around older people, like I could listen to their story, and there's just this comfort that they won't judge me.
That overthinking seems to be a thing of the times. Our nervous system is constantly being bombarded with information, and we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people, and not feeling comfortable in ourselves, and that overthinking constantly. It's like we judge ourselves, and then we believe that
Right.
other people are going to judge us too. And so in that fear of that judgment, instead of being in the now, it
Yeah.
creates that anxious feeling. And that seems to be very prevalent, not just in the trans community, but in the world in general, because of the
Yeah.
excess amount of stimulation. um,
I
and
mean,
like,
I was just watching an episode of like America's Got Talent, right? And there's
Mm,
this kid, this this young girl that she has a speech impediment, but that when she sings, it all of a sudden just goes away, and
mm,
she's like, it's like all is well in her
mhm.
world. And I just wonder what it is that causes us to have that anxiety around other people, because I experience that type of anxiety as well. Like if family members would come over, just unexpectedly, and I didn't want to see anybody, I would just go hide in my room, play my keyboard, or draw, or do something else, right? Listen to music. And I just wonder where that social anxiety comes from, and why is it so prevalent?
Well, it's the bombardment of information.
yeah.
The nervous system of the individuals this day and age is very different than the nervous system maybe like 100, 200 years ago.
Yeah.
Back then we were more hands-on. Now we're more technical, and everything
Yeah.
is digital, and
Yeah.
all the information we get from our smartphones, and our nervous system is not meant to handle
Mm,
that.
yeah.
So it's like the part of the brain that processes things, it's incapable of processing things so quickly. And so it just sends off this danger alert signals, and we get sweaty palms, and we don't know how to handle things, and we feel very judged, and
And I know
it's a
that
thing.
explains like what is happening now.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're talking like about the 70s and 80s, when there wasn't internet, when there wasn't,
TVs, though, the
yeah,
television is the
I
same
guess so.
thing. It's like we weren't meant to be sitting in front of a box
Yeah,
watching cartoons and whatever else. It's
right.
like the TV was the smartphone of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So every
Yeah.
generation has gotten that excessive amount of input, and all these little jingles and commercials and stuff that constantly,
But
playing
it
in our
like
head.
went away when you started going to church.
My anxiety.
Yeah.
Well, I think when God was just pushing me to, like just feel uncomfortable and just even going out to share my art with other people. Like I had no choice but to talk to people, and
Yeah.
and also yeah, just I guess also being heartbroken, you just kind of had to learn how to be on your own again, like pretty much finding yourself again. And I think in that season, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't live, like this anymore, and I have to do something differently. And yeah, and just I think just also at that time, going to church, my pastor would have, these just events or yeah, just events where we would go out and like um we had to go up to people and ask them if we could bless them with a Starbucks drink. Like that had to, I had to force myself to talk to people. And I think those little moments helped me just kind of feel comfortable and just yeah, just you know, just the bloom. Um so yeah.
That's a
If
that's
it's not asking too much, what was it like to be in that relationship from like 2014 to 18? How did you meet? Was this person special in the sense of, just their uniqueness, or what did they bring to your life, and how did it affect you?
Mm. Um well, I met her at during I would say in this season. um I had a job at the airport. And I don't know why. I think so. When I had went to church, I discovered, gospel music, and I fell in love with gospel music. And they had like worship, dance, and I always told myself, I was like, Lord, if you teach me how to dance, I want to dance for you. I want to learn how to dance for you. And during that season, I had a job at the airport, and my manager was also a break dancer. And I told him I didn't know why, but I told him I was like, I don't know how to dance, but I wanna learn how to dance. And he told me, well, let's go to the cipher. Like I'm a break dancer. Let's go to the cipher. And he had asked me to go with him for about like 6 months straight, but my anxiety, it just I never went until one night. Uh, my other manager was like, "Hey, what you doing tonight?" And I pretty much lied to her and said, "Hey, I'm going to this uh cipher event," which I wasn't really going. But so they ended up, telling each other, and he called me, and then I ended up at the cipher event that night, and that was when I met my uh ex-girlfriend at that time. And she was a dancer, and um I would say just being in a relationship, uh, we were pretty young, so it was really difficult, and it was pretty new to her dating a trans guy at that time. So it was a lot. It was a lot of just figuring out, like what I want to do, what she wants to do, and I think, and just even moving in together was really fast. So everything was pretty much a lot,
Mhm.
and so I would say, like being around, she has opened me up to just a new world of just even art, like dance and music. I've never, I never grew up listening to Anita Baker or anything like that. Um, and yeah, just being around her as a dancer and her friends, that just community has also inspired me to, like they really encouraged me to tap into my creativeness. Because like growing up in an Asian household, art was never really, encouraged. So even getting to know her as an artist had really encouraged me and inspired me to be like, yo, like maybe I could do this as a living. Um, so
That's interesting.
yeah,
So when you decided that after the breakup, and I think in your bio it says that in 2020, which
yeah,
is the year that changed the life for just about
Yeah,
so
the
many
world
people,
changed.
the
yeah,
whole world changed. That's when you started contemplating detransitioning,
yes,
correct?
yes,
So prior to that, you were okay with the way you were presenting, and
yes,
your church family was okay with the way you were presenting. But then
yes.
2020, and that's during the time of the breakup as well, or no, actually you broke up in
No,
2018. So two
yes,
years after that in 2020, what happened in 2020 besides the big world event
yeah.
that made you, say, well, I can't do this anymore?
Well, so long story short, there just was a situation going on at home, and it was pretty much just my sister telling me that she wanted to break up with her boyfriend, and she told me at that time he was living with us, and she told me like she was gonna leave and just to go to my mom's house, and that if he were to come back, just don't let him in. And when she left, he eventually came and tried to come in the house, but I didn't let him in, so he got really upset and just bang on the door and try to come in. And I texted my sister and say, hey, like he came back. So it was pretty much just a lot of uh feelings going on and just me feeling anxious and during that time, and I just felt like God was telling me to go upstairs. He was like, go upstairs and just worship me. So I went upstairs, played some worship music, and for I don't know, maybe about like 30 minutes or so, and then I just kind of sat still. And there was a book that I bought from church called How to Break a Stronghold, How to Pull a Stronghold by Ed Sabaso. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna pick up that book and read it because I bought it. And I believe the first chapter was about just not Matthew, Peter, telling Jesus that he wasn't gonna die. Do you remember that scripture?
Yes. Yes.
And Jesus said, "Get behind me, Satan." So pretty
Mm-hmm.
much, in the book, it wrote that sometimes we have like good thoughts and good intention, but sometimes it's not God's way or God thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So I pretty much just asked God. I was like, Lord, what are my good thoughts, my good intention? And in that moment, uh, God just said, it's your life as Alex. Those are your good thoughts and good intention. And I can't really explain it. It was just kind of like a mind blowing thing, right? For the first time ever, I've never seen it like that before. And then God started to just um, show me memories of my father and my mother, arguing, and then me being molested, and then me catfishing. It was like, yeah, God was just showing me a slideshow of everything that I've been through and why I started to transition. And that was pretty much, the reason why I started to detransition.
So yeah.
No,
Okay.
okay.
So when you decided to detransition, and I'm sure that was scary, because I know I've
Yeah,
attempted it 6 times and wrestled with it and wrestled with the whole belief system and everything else. And like, we said to you, I don't know if we said it on camera, off camera, everyone's on a journey. And, we've just I think it's a beautiful thing that we could all share our stories in the way we play out our life and what we commit to and what we believe in. When you said you heard God tell you and flash your life in front of your eyes,
Yeah.
um, what did you do? Like, okay, so now here I God's telling me
Right.
this. I mean, because I know for a fact after so many years of hormones, there is no way of presenting female again.
Yeah.
Because you go by Anna, but you still present
Right.
in a masculine fashion.
Right.
So for people that are watching, and maybe some Christians as well, is something maybe that you could teach them how do you wrestle with presenting as you do, and yet still feel like it's a detransition.
I know that in the beginning, like it took me about like 2 years to finally come to a point where, this is me, this is where I'm at, and not trying to just rush the process. I know, like in the beginning, yeah, just even that first week, I remember just not knowing what to do, not knowing how to even come out to, my family and friends. I was scared. Like, yeah, I even had thoughts of committing suicide because I just felt like I couldn't come out again because or else, people will think that I'm crazy. And yeah, I honestly, uh, I would say it was just God's strength, and just, in that season, uh, yeah, in that season of not having, people that kind of understand you. Like I even came out to one of my close friends, who was gay, and I told him about how God spoke to me, and one of the things that he said was, "I'm sorry that somebody made you feel that way," and that wasn't it. It was pretty much just, God spoke to me personally, and I felt like even he didn't really understand me, so I just felt alone, and during that time, I would say about I don't know, 2 months later, I've met a met a guy on Facebook, um, on this group called Mayhole, um, and he pretty much saw my testimony, and he bought me a ticket to Atlanta to this event called Freedom March. Have you guys heard of Freedom March?
Yeah, I was supposed to attend twice actually, but I never ended up
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. Yeah. So he bought me a ticket to Freedom March for the first time, and I just took a leap of faith and went there. And it was in that season that, there was people like myself who detransitioned, who pretty much, uh, you know, left the LGBT. And I think just being around people, is important, and just being in a space of community and, um, yeah, um,
So, like that moment when you were by yourself upstairs and you had this encounter with God, um, and you were reading a book that
yeah,
was about breaking spiritual strongholds,
yeah.
um, did you feel that you had some kind of a demonic attack or oppression or possession that was over you that caused you to transition? Is that something that you felt had overcome you at a certain time in your life?
At that moment, no.
Okay.
To me, it didn't really connect. Um, so,
But then later, did you feel differently at all?
um, What do you mean by feeling different?
Oh no, did you feel that it was some kind of a spiritual attack on you later? Did someone speak to you, or have you just decided that this was what was the path that God had set for you?
Oh yeah, I do know, looking back at, like just my journey, I felt like, I could see why I transitioned, even, with my relationship with my dad and my brother. And I knew that, um, yeah, I just knew that I didn't want to pretend anymore. I felt like even when I was Alex, there was always a mask that I had to put on. Like I had
Mm.
to be this masculine guy, or I had to present myself in a way that was more masculine than I am. And when I, came out um, about my detransitioning story, it just felt like it was just a relief. Like I didn't have to
Yeah,
wear that mask anymore. I didn't have to present my way, present myself in this way.
right.
So when you say present yourself, were you more masculine acting prior than you're like presenting yourself now?
Yes. I
Yeah.
felt like, yeah, like I had to, just even the way that I spoke, like there was a certain language that I need to, just vocabulary that I need to use, or even the way that I'll walk, or even, when you're, yeah,
It's like a shield.
it's a lot
Yeah.
different. Yes, yes.
See, with me, whether I was actually
Yeah,
worse before I transitioned. I mean, I had a
yeah,
temper. I'm Cuban, so um, the guys would be afraid of me as a
Mm,
woman because my dad would always say, "I'd rather take you along for a fight than any guy out there," that kind of thing. Because I've always been very alpha from the
mhm,
moment I got pushed out of my mother's womb, and actually, I think I've mellowed out a lot. Even my sister would say that I was
yeah,
worse, but um, I don't know. It's just my personality from the moment on, and I think with me, a lot of the shaming that I felt for being who I am as a person, whether I present as Mark or whether I present as Maritza, I was always shamed for being masculine, for being different,
mm,
and I think that was my struggle.
mm,
And when I was presented with Christianity, and I think Christianity is great.
yeah,
It helps a lot of people. It does. It's like one of those um, belief system that will give a lifeline to those that have hit bottom or they feel they have no way out or nothing else. And I've seen a lot of people get help dramatically. I myself am a heavy thinker, and I've like really delved deep into esoteric beliefs, shamanism, and all sorts of different stuff that I know it goes against all Christian beliefs. But I never really felt or heard God's voice. Some people say they hear God's voice or that Jesus or the Holy Spirit, and I really like got down on my knees. I really wanted to hear that voice. I really wanted to, you know, to be shaken, to be
right.
shown something, and it never did. And I tried, and I really, really,
yeah,
really tried. And again, we're all on a journey, and we all have different ways of dealing with things. But I'm a very assertive individual. I'm not a
yeah,
pacifist. I don't sit back and want to be saved. I'm like, if there's something that needs done saving, I'm gonna do it. I don't care how
yeah,
big you are as a guy. I don't care what the situation is. And it never really worked for me. Um, what what would you say was the how would I put this? What would you say was the factor in Christianity, or what is it that you feel that actually moved you? Because it's like I read my Bible. I read my Bible every day and
Yeah.
devotionals and listened to Christian music. There was a season where I wouldn't do anything other than Christian movies and Christian music
Yeah.
and read the Bible and devotionals. And, I was hungry for truth. I wanted more,
Yeah.
but it fell very short.
Yeah, and we would have these conversations when we first started, our relationship, although it was, you know, under very extreme circumstances, from me almost dying rolling off a mountain with a car. But still, the belief system that he had was not compatible with mine because I was raised in Christianity. I was a kid that was brought up going to Christian schools, attending,
Mm.
church and Sunday school, and I was the one that gave my heart to Jesus at 5, and
Wow.
felt like I was like, in constant fear of hell and the rapture happening. If I was caught dancing or something on my bed, I wouldn't go to heaven or something. So I was raised in this culture of fear. And
Mm.
for me, Christianity's been a very traumatizing experience because what I find in my own personal journey with believing in Jesus and my faith is that there's like this, and then you hear it like in a Facebook conversation we were just on. They're like, well, we just, like Paul says, to hand them over to Satan so that he can deal with their physical body and then they will be saved. And it's like this real, like, okay, I accept you up until this point and then I
Yeah.
can't accept you anymore. And I
Yeah.
find that without Christianity, there's like an acceptance that exists
Mm.
within the hearts of other people that isn't limited like that,
Or other belief
or
systems
other
that
belief
actually
systems.
look at individuals like us in the trans community as very godly ourselves because we've been able to walk on both side of the fence type
Yeah,
of
so the
thing.
question was like, what was that trigger moment? What was that like, I mean, is it simply just like, well, I finally accepted it by faith and
Mm.
I just chose to believe finally? Or did something like electrifying happen in your experience?
And when God gave me a revelation,
Yeah, like what
um,
was the kickoff or that
um,
moment?
I think it was just me looking back at my younger self, like my baby picture, and I just saw, like myself smiling, and I just saw, I don't remember too much of my childhood, but I just remember like telling myself that I wanted to hug that little girl. I wanted to tell that little girl that she was loved and that she was enough. And I think that was like the moment that made me decide, like, what about the other little girls that are out there, um, that are pretty much going through the same thing that I have went through. And I guess that was like my moment for me to, yeah.
And it's great. I mean, we share a lot of testimony, and every testimony has their own unique perspective about it, and faith seems to be the key factor. Here we have Dan, who's on chat. He says he didn't hear God until he totally surrendered
Mm.
himself and allowed him to cry out. And well, God did speak to me and still does, but I've had to obey when convicted, which was about even giving up food or whatever God wanted me to give up. And we respect that, that everybody has their whatever their
Yeah.
moment is, and whatever it is that helps them, deal with life, because we all deal with life differently. Some
Yeah.
people use food as comfort, and that's why we have such a overweight population. Other people use alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, uh, whatever you name it, things that will help you navigate life day to day. Some people meditate, some people do yoga, some people, pray to different gods, or and whatever it is that a
Right.
person has to do to get them from A to B, and to allow them to get up every morning, because living is not easy. Being a human is hard. And I just can't believe there's just one way of doing things, because even your GPS has different routes that you can take
Mm.
to get to a destination. I believe in God. I believe that there's a supreme being. How that God is, I don't know, because I don't
Right.
believe we have the intelligence to really break down and understand what this energy force totally is. I wish that people would respect one another to the point where they don't feel like their way is the only way. And
Mm.
I'm not saying you have, love you, brother or sister. I mean, you're very gracious in your delivery and how you say things and sharing your story. But we've had a lot of friction in the past with people, and I'm sure you've met some people like that too, that probably look at you and they probably try to judge you for how you present, and they'll probably
Right.
tell you, you got to get rid of that beard and wear a dress and all this
Yeah.
stuff. I'm sure you've come across that.
Yeah.
I think as human beings, it's important that we respect one another, respect each
Yeah.
other's opinions, belief system, because we're not cookie cutter. Each
Yeah.
and every one of us handles things differently, you know. Did you?
No, I was just going to say, I was just going to ask you if you find yourself now freer as a human being in your expression as a person, like dealing with all the garbage that you've had to deal with.
Yeah.
Do you find that your Christian faith now gives you the opportunity to really kind of like grow as an individual? Or because like in my experience with my Christian faith, I found that, it was like, well, just give it to Jesus and he'll take care of it. He says that my yoke is easy and my burden is light, and you don't have to worry. Just give it to me. And it's like, it's almost like it keeps us, in my opinion, this is, just personal. It's almost like it keeps us from doing the real work, which is in getting in the dirt, getting in the mud, getting into the filth of what it is that we've been in and working it out. It's
Yeah.
like, it's almost like going to hell is like is perceived as like a punishment, whereas going to hell in other, in another way of thinking of it is like, gosh, I go to a place to really deal with the stuff so that it could get burned out of me,
It's alchemy, refinement,
but
refinement of the
I don't
soul.
know if, that's just my own personal
Right.
thoughts on it. I mean, what do you think?
I
Has it given
know.
you that freedom?
I feel like I feel more free than I've ever felt free in my, just my life, only because I don't struggle with social anxiety. And I do remember that first year, even, meeting Freedom March. I felt like after that experience, I just felt like I had to, grow my hair, which I just recently had my hair cut about like a week ago. But I
Mm.
had long hair, like to my shoulders. And I just felt like, oh, now that I detransitioned, I have to look like Anna again. The Anna that was like, when I was 16. Um, and just, yeah, just trying to figure out who Anna is. And I realized that, I would say this year, even now, I realized that, this journey that God has put me in is, it's a process.
Mm.
You can't rush whatever God's trying to do. And I know, Christians have this idea in their head that, you should look like this,
Right.
you should dress like this. But I think that, um, that is really important to, I know for me, it's really important to just build that relationship with God and just be sensitive to his voice, because God has his way of walking me through it without feeling like you have to be burnt out. Because when you
Right.
start to do things in your own strength, it becomes work, and it becomes overwhelming, and you feel like, maybe this whole thing isn't right, or you start questioning yourself. I think I have done that, in the last 2 years of just even, yeah, relearning or, discovering who I am again. And it's hard. Some moments you get it right, some moments you don't.
Right.
And it's a journey.
Well, being
And just,
human.
yeah, human, and
Yeah.
just allowing yourself to have that grace, and, we're all humans.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there's many ways of looking at the creator, and that's why there's
Yes.
so many denomination, even in Christianity alone, there's like a slew. I think it's very personal. Certain people, like Dan was saying, not many people want to give up everything, want to use scripture and the laws and rules, but never really totally surrender. I don't believe that you have to surrender. I mean, why should you surrender? Doing the work makes one stronger. I mean, and again, everyone's different. I've never been one of those individuals just to give up and go, okay, take it away, and it's like spirit beings learn by doing, by engaging in and navigating in the things that life makes you encounter. And spiritual growth, in my opinion, will not come by just praying and just giving it up to whatever deity the person decides to believe in. But that's my belief. I respect everybody else's belief, and respect that. Damn, that's where you are. That's what allows you to get up every morning. It wasn't enough for me, and like I said, I respect everyone's view and the way they deal with life, because even though we're all human, we don't have the same fingerprint. We have a different way of dealing with stress. We have a different way of coping. We have a different way of dancing the dance of life, and
See,
I've,
there's like the scripture, Psalm 139:8, that says, even if I go to the heights of the heavens, there you are with me. And if I descend to the depths of hell, you are there with me as well. I think what happens is that in Christianity, they want to identify a lot of times with the heights of heaven, but they never want to identify with people going to the depths of hell, and that God is still with them in that journey, you know.
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
I really
Yes.
think personally that that's a real fault,
Mm.
that we can't just love people
Yes.
whether, regardless, whatever they've been doing, whatever they're whatever they love, however they look, that that Christianity has not been apparent to me, and that's why I have a problem with believing in it, because I see it only as like, okay, people that want to go to heaven, and they're like, oh, we're going to be with Jesus forever in heaven, and all the rest of you, well, you're all going to go to hell and die and forever, and it's like
Yeah.
this eternal punishment and this eternal reward, but
Yeah.
it's almost like, I don't know,
yeah,
it's like it's incompatible. It's like you need to be, you need to know what it's like to be dark for you to appreciate the light, and you need to
Yeah.
know what to appreciate the light to appreciate the
yeah.
darkness,
It's part of the path, part of the growth. I mean, everything. I think Earth is like a playground or ride per se, and we're here to pick up pieces and learn things and share our experiences up in the Akashi records or whatever it is that's out there. But it's a beautiful thing that you've come to your realization that you're at peace, which is that's all that matters, man.
yeah,
That
your
you're at
Yeah.
peace,
anxiety is
that you're happy where
gone.
you're at, and you're creating and trying to make a difference in the world. And if God is your moose and God is what is inspiring you,
Yeah.
then who are we to say it's not true? That's why
Yeah.
I respect each individual's journey, and it's a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
where you're at. And what advice would you give, Anna, to those young individuals out there that may look at an idiot like me who is on Maury Povich and like fished you into the trans life. Like what would you say, to someone who's thinking about transitioning?
Um, I would just encourage that person to really think about just reflecting, on why, or if there's anything trauma that they went through, that, or just anything that made them feel like they had to change or be this other person. I know for me, because I felt like that I had to just be somebody else. But even now, like learning to even embrace myself in this season, just reading the word of God. When God says, you are beautifully and wonderfully made, just reflecting on that scripture and knowing that, like God made you enough. In this world that we live in, we want to constantly change or be somebody else. Um, God says that you're enough and that you're beautiful. And that, when He created you, there was no comparison. Um, so I would just say that.
That's good. Yeah, it's we are all beautifully and wonderfully made. But we all also sometimes have this adventurous nature inside of us, this creative nature inside of us that wants to change things. And
Yeah,
it's not just trans people that do it. People in the world do
yeah,
it, whether it's through plastic surgery or they dye
right,
their hair or they wear different types of clothing to express their inner beings or whatever. I mean, I think we're art in the making, every single one
yeah,
of us, and
yes,
art's beautiful. It's a skill that we have been given by source, the universe, our creator. And, I don't think that judgment should be placed on people for exploring life, for
yeah,
exploring where they are and where they want to be. It's
yeah,
like children when they play, it's like they
right,
do all sorts of different things. You don't tell a child, don't touch the toy that way because, it's like
right,
exploration. And
right,
to me, we're children. We're spiritual children learning, evolving, growing, playing in this beautiful planet that has been gifted to us by our creator. So, you know, I do say not everyone should transition. That's
yeah,
very clear. This is not for the faint of heart. This is not going to solve your problems. Um, this will possibly create a lot more problems, but for some of us, it has been a saving grace, in a sense that we're able to navigate life differently and freer than we were before, and it's different for everybody. Like Dan is also a detransitioner. Interviewed Dan a while back, and he's all, he believes what he believes, and that's great,
yeah,
and there's no one that should ever try to change his mind or your mind. It's your journey, your path. You know, navigate it well. You know,
Anna, would you say that the Anna from, at 12 is anything like the Anna now?
totally different. I felt like just even as a kid, I was just going through. I had a lot of hatred and bitterness and unforgiveness in my heart. I feel like now I've learned to just forgive and to just love and to serve. Just even walking with God, God's been just teaching me, um, just to be sensitive to spirit. And I think now I feel like God has really uh, just transformed my heart. I think everything that I've went through, or still not going through. It's like a heart issue. And what God wants to do is just to transform our heart. Um, yeah,
I think it's beautiful. Your heart comes across. That vulnerability, that humbleness, that beautiful spirit that you have within you. And it's very evident in what you say and how you respond. Um, and it's encouraging to see, because there's a lot of times when there's a lot of Christians out there that you know, would behave or would act differently, but you have a very, very kind spirit, and it shows,
thank
and it's going to really impact a lot of people.
Yeah, and
thank you.
that's what we're here to do, is to be able to, you know, be kind and like give people hope and inspire them, no matter what faith one follows.
Yeah,
It's a part of being human, and really shining our light on everyone and being kind and understanding. And it starts by being kind to self and having
yeah,
unconditional love, because that's the thing that most people don't know. They know
yeah,
laws, they know, regulations, and that's where I get a lot from Christianity. A lot of laws, and follow this command, or this, that, or you're going to go to hell. And that, that just, that pushes people away. But kindness and love and understanding, and just being authentic and loving unconditionally,
Yeah, I think one of the most important things that I've learned recently about unconditional love is that if you could love a person unconditionally, which means that no matter how bad they
right.
become or how awful of a person they are to you, that you would still love them,
Yes,
that speaks
Yeah.
volumes.
yes,
And I find that in my experience with Christianity, I sadly can say that I haven't experienced that
mm,
um, with the people that claim to say that they love you. It's like, I
yeah,
love you if I love
right.
you, but I love you, and it's like,
Mm,
it's never just I love you,
yeah,
and I don't understand what you're going through, but I just want to tell you that I do love you. You know.
mm, yeah,
Well, I think the source of the belief in and of itself is very conditioned, because God didn't love us unconditionally. Like, we made a mistake as the initial Adam and Eve, and right away they were kids,
Or like,
literally.
I love you
sorry.
because you first loved me.
Yeah,
It's like, it seems like
it's
it's
very
predicated.
conditional. It's like,
Yeah.
you know,
Sorry,
Christ had
sorry,
to
Charlie.
die torturous death on the cross to save us.
Yeah.
Everything
Right.
has like these conditions and these ways of, like, Dan is saying, if we don't have the character of Christ, we won't fit in heaven. And it's like
But see,
that.
the whole concept of like heaven being a place of like eternal bliss and happiness. Even in Revelation, it says that people eternally aren't going to spend their eternity in heaven. It's a new heaven and a new earth that people are going to be brought to, or that they're going to live in. So even it's like, I think doctrinally and theologically, a lot of Christians don't really understand
Mhm.
exactly what they're talking about in that sense, because they talk about heaven as this, place of,
Yeah,
eternal,
like Nirvana.
yeah,
And it's like, and they're not living, waiting to go to this, place
but
of, but
those are
it's like,
just opinions,
yeah,
and I totally respect and honor your journey,
yes,
and your belief and all the things that you've expressed here. It's a powerful testimony, and I do wish you all the best,
yes,
Thank you.
in your life.
definitely.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you wanted to add? If people want to check you out, they could check out your website. How do you pronounce that? Eric?
Arakusen. That's pretty much
Arakuzen.
Arakusen.
yeah, Alex in Japanese, but I just kind of,
Oh,
took it and
interesting.
at the
I
end.
was
So I figure
I
I
was
keep
wondering.
it because I get to share my testimony with other people.
That's good.
Sure.
That's awesome. Testimonies are
But
always great. Great to share.
but I
So
also
people,
wanted. Oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
wanted to also say that there's a saying that I've heard that, like sinners don't go to hell, only unbelief still, and that quote has given me so much peace. Like just even thinking about my journey, like God didn't heal me from, like I struggle with, anxiety, pornography, like hatred, and God, even my transition, but what God has shown me throughout the years was, like it was just He wanted to heal other areas of my heart too. It wasn't just my, like transition. It was like my anger, my unforgiveness, and then all this other stuff that I was dealing with that
Yeah.
needed to be healed first. I think even thinking about the Christian faith, we put, when it comes to the LGBT, we put this, like this hierarchy of like this is the bad sin,
Mhm.
and that's something that I think the Christian church needs to just do a better job at, is
Right.
to just love. But yeah, that's all I wanted to
Yeah,
say.
and realize that there are different paths to take. Because well, he just got cut
Oh
off.
no, it's
Um,
lost him.
just lost them. I don't know why
Hmm.
he. Hopefully, it comes back. Or she comes back on. I don't know what. She probably hit something. Um, I wanted to say that there's different paths to be able to journey, and heal. Whether it's through different sorts of spirituality, where you're working through meditation, breath work, yoga, whatever it is that people need to do to heal themselves. Um, it's not just one road, and I know that Christians believe that it's just
Yeah,
one
I mean,
way.
there's like pathways to being able to properly open oneself up to deal with life, to deal with the circumstances that life has presented them. And I find that a lot of times what Christianity does, and it does very well, is to get people to repress themselves to the point where people are literally like thinking that they have to be celibate,
Right,
and that they can't ever have sex again
right,
because they're attracted to someone that they shouldn't be attracted to, and
yeah,
it's like this constant, like, I need to, like, if you've watched the Da Vinci Code, this constant flogging of oneself,
yeah,
oh, woe is me, sinner am I, I'm not fit, like Dan was saying, I'm not fit to come to be fit for heaven, because I have these problems that I need
right,
to fix, or else I will not be able to be in the presence of God or
right. Or
something.
he just said, "It's saying, good evening, all. Listen and obey when you hear Christ." It's like
Yeah,
obey,
it's
like we're
like,
some sort of like pets or
yeah,
something,
it's like obey or else. It's not obey because I love
No,
you.
no, but it's not
It's
even
obey or
love. It's
else.
conditioned love,
Yeah, because if
and
you don't obey,
yeah,
you're going to hell.
yeah, and
And that's like,
that's
you need to be fearful of that,
yeah,
you
and
know.
and that gets you for a little bit, because a lot of people do. I don't know what happened. I'm trying to get her. I said, "Did you lose internet or something?" But they're not
Yeah, I don't
responding.
know.
Um, it's not the way for growth, not for the true spiritual growth. I know a lot of Christians that are repressed. They're repressing what they want because of fear, because they are afraid of going to hell, because they hit the rock bottom and they feel that that's their path, is the only way, is to believe in Christ, and they don't want to do the work. They want the work to be done for them, because what does Christianity teach? There's no works that'll get you into heaven. It's
Yeah.
just accepting Jesus as your Lord and Savior.
And I think it's important that you really look at the story for what it is. Look at the Jesus story for what it is. Look at the evidence that makes the case for belief. I mean, it's our duty as a human being to seek the truth and to pursue the truth at all costs. And if that means that old legends and old belief systems die in the process, then that's what needs to happen in order for us to be able to understand and to become what we're supposed to be as humans, as eternal spirits, ultimately. And really, I think it's critical that people actually know why they believe what they believe, and if after you've weighed it all out and you find it wanting, to be willing to let it go if that's what you need to do.
They lost power on their iPad. It just
Oh,
went,
no.
so we're trying.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, it's, it's imperative that we, as spirit beings having a human experience, understand that these religious beliefs really doesn't serve us as a spirit. Okay, the iPad is giving the red charge.
Well, it was great.
Yeah,
it was great to
have you have you share your testimony.
Yeah.
And it's important that we all are candid about where we are in our journey, because it's a journey. It's a heck of a journey. Like you mentioned earlier, being human is not easy.
No,
it's one of the hardest things.
It's difficult. It is.
While we chose to come down here, I don't know. We didn't realize, when we were up there and decided to come down here, we didn't know.
It was so that
hard.
I could see you.
That's it.
That's it. That was my reason.
Yeah. But okay, we'll go ahead and sign off. Thank you so much, Anna, for your testimony. Thank you guys for tuning in. Who do we have next Sunday? Let me see here. Next Sunday, we have an interview with, I think, Michelle. Yeah, Michelle. She's also a detransitioner.
From Canada.
From Canada.
Okay.
So that'll be an interesting interview as well. All right, guys. Catch us next week, 3:00. And then after that, shows will be bumped up to 6 p.m., 6 or 7. We're playing it by ear. But we thank you so much for tuning in. Yes. Thank you, Dan, for your comments, although we don't agree with a lot of the comments, but, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I know I've changed mine a lot, and that's part of growth. Without change, there is no growth. Every cell in your body gets regenerated. Some die, new ones are born. That's how life is. It's not just this black or white reality that most of us are taught that life is. Absolutely. All right, guys, we love you, but remember to always love yourself too. Good night. Have a great one.